Good day, everyone. This is the continuation of frameworks related to curriculum, and now we are in Part B, inclusive components of Key to 12 curriculum. First, we have the alternative learning system, also known as ALS. So, alternative learning system is a response to the formal education in the Key to 12 curriculum. So, alternative learning system is a parallel learning system in the Philippines that provides opportunity for out-of-school youth and adults learners to develop basic and functional literacy skills and to access equivalent pathways to complete basic education. So, ALS covers 5 areas. So, communication skills. So, ALS will teach you kanang these 5 areas: the communication skills, critical thinking, problem solving, sustainable use of resources and productivity, and develop of self and sense of community, and expanding one's world vision. So, ALS includes the following programs. So, ALS also have programs for the informal education, the non-formal education, distance learning, open high school system, and school by the barrios. So, in summary, alternative learning system is a standardized, modular, non-formal education program and is the third bureau of the Department of Education. So this program benefits those students or people who cannot afford formal schooling and follows whatever is the available schedule. So this alternative learning system is really available to students or people who are living in like Bukid or the mountain barangays. So this is really good for them because when kanang mountain barangays who have limited schools. So this is also good for people who are late in schooling or adults who was late in schooling. They can they can go to alternative learning system or enroll to alternative learning system. So next we have the madrasa curriculum. So madrasa curriculum, so madrasa is an Arabic term for school. So its function as a school where a religious teacher instills his or her pupils with the basic tenets of Islam and the Arabic languages. So even if that student is living here in Philippines, he or her is still learning the Islam and the Arabic languages. So the culture is still preserved. So in-depth Ed Order Number 51, Section 2004, the madrasa educational system became a vital component of the national educational similar to Christian and Chinese school system. So for example, we have here the Christian school, for example, University of San Carlos. It is managed by the priest. And for Chinese school, we have the Samantha Badra School. It is a Chinese school here in Cebu, and this is based on ARMM RG Executive Order Number 13A Section 2004, in which the autonomous region in Muslim Mindanao adopted a national standard curriculum for Mandara curriculum. So this madrasa curriculum is mostly common or used in Mindanao places. So, madrasa curriculum The early Muslim Filipinos maintained their own educational system, so which stated as Quranic school for young children. So it developed into madrasa. So a school managed by the community where teaching is based in Quran, Islam, and moral education. Madrasa curriculum is, what is madrasa in DepEd? So DepEd is implementing the madrasa educational program as a response to the call for global commitment on education for all. So this is made for all. So it is guided by the roadmap for upgrading Muslim basic education. So this is implemented for Muslim people. Aside from the formal sector, the madrasa educational program also aims to bring assistance to the non-formal sector. So next we have the indigenous people's education. So the indigenous people education curriculum framework is intended for students identified under indigenous peoples groups and tribes around the world, around the country. So it includes additional subjects on cultural appreciation, history and traditional and more of the indigenous group. So indigenous group, the expert mechanism on the rights of indigenous people states that quality of education for indigenous people means education that is well-resourced, cultural sensitive, respectful of heritage, and that takes into account history, cultural security, and integrity, encompasses human rights, community, and individual. So indigenous people education is for those people is for people who are, it includes additional subjects for cultural appreciation to preserve our culture and history of our country and traditions. It concludes that it preserves our culture and tradition. So that is indigenous people's education. So last we have the multi-grade classes. So what is multi-grade classes? Classes with three grade levels conducted in one classroom and handled by a single teacher and are called a multi-grade or multi-level class. This means that children with different skills and abilities and development levels and needs are mixed in one class and work together under the guidance of one teacher. So multi-grade classes is a bit challenging for a teacher because different level of students are put in one classroom and is guided by one teacher. So it is really a challenging for a teacher to handle different level of students. So these multi-grade classes are mostly happens in mountain barangays and those country who only have limited school and teachers. So a multi-grade classroom refers to a class that has two or more grades levels of children in one classroom. So it is also called a multi-age group. So different age, different level are put in one classroom handled by one teacher. So it's a bit difficult and challenging for teacher. So multi-grade classes exist as a matter of necessity for remote barangays. So this is really happen to remote barangays where the number of children enrolled could not meet the required number to organize a single grade class and assign necessary teacher from each class. So for example, if there are only few teachers and few classroom in that specifically one barangay, so and there are more more than the limit students, so they are applying the multi-grade classes. So the distance of the barrio and the small number of students can also be the reason for the multi-grade classes. So lastly, the school may have a large shortage of funds, teachers, and school buildings. So for example, for those mountain barangays that cannot be reached or cannot be reached by the people from the DepEd, that's why they have shortage of funds, teachers, and buildings. So that's why they uses or implemented this multi-grade class. So next is so we are now in outcomes based education, and refers to an approach in teaching and learning which the instructional objectives are the basis for all decision making. So here we have all the instructional objectives are the basis for the decision making. So the ultimate goal of outcome-based education is to create learning that will become a lasting significance to learner. So that is their ultimate goal, to last so the learning will last. The learning will last to the learners. So William Spady coined the term OBE and identified the 4 key principles governing it. So outcome-based education is an educational movement. As an educational movement, outcome-based education is based largely on constructivism. So it is which assets that learners are capable of making their own meaning. So the students are capable of making their own meaning and decision making. So we have here the four key principles governing it, coined by William Spady. So we have first the clarity of focus. So clarity of focus is all decisions regarding teaching and learning activities must necessarily be focused centrally on the achievement of the set of educational systems. So this means that clarity of focus means you are being focused on one subject only. For example, you only have a set of educational activities. So you should only focus on that thing and nothing more. So you are more on clarity of focus on that thing. So you should only focus on that learning activities or education or set of educational system. So that is mean of clarity of focus. Next we have the designing down means when designing an outcomes based education curriculum, classroom activities, the teacher must always begin with the end in mind. That is, the learning outcomes must be identified first, and all the elements such as the assessment, methods, learning experience, and teaching and learning resources will follow. So this is designing down means that the teacher has already have in her mind his or her in mind what will be the outcome of at the end of my discussion. What will be the outcome at the end of our time or the time or the discussion. So final na iyahang kuan nga I will achieve this. The students will achieve this thing. Will learn this thing. So that is mean. So if the teacher has already conclude or has already the end in mind, so the learning outcomes will follow, like the assessment methods, the learning experiences, teaching and learning resources will follow, because you already concluded in your mind that you will target this thing, that you will be able to teach it to the students, they will able to learn it, and they will able to they will not be able to forget that learning. So that is designing down. You are having already the conclusion that you will able to achieve this target, that you will able to teach it to the students and they will able to learn it. So next we have the high expectations. So setting high expectation or standards result in high students performance and achievements. So when you are teaching, you really expect something from your students. That, for example, you are teaching something. So you expect that your students will be able to learn or absorb the things that you were able to discuss. So that's why your students will be able to have high performance and high achievement. So as a student, it is also matter as a teacher. So it always comes first to teacher. So if the teacher was able to deliver her lesson or topic very well, the students will be able to absorb the topic or the learning or faster. So it is a matter for how the teacher teach. So as a future teacher, you should also know what are the teaching techniques for you to be able to use it to your future teaching. So for your students to be able to understand you easily, and they will able to absorb your discussion or the topic. So that will set you a high standard and set your students a high standard for their performance and achievement. Lastly, we have the expanded opportunity. So opportunities. So this principle is further asserted by Howard Gardner's concept of multiple intelligences. As students are differently talented, teaching and learning experience must also be varied. So must also be varied. We all know that some of the students mostly learn in reading, watching, visual, hearing, and we know that students have different kind of way of learning. So as a teacher, you should not only focus on one thing. You should more expand your knowledge. For example, when you are teaching, you should not only talk in front. You should not only discuss. You should also tell your students your experience in life that relates to your topic. Or for example, after you're done with your discussion, you can tell your students to have a performance or written activities for them to be able to understand or expand their knowledge more. So students are differently talented teaching and learning experience. So for example, there are students who are good in drawing. So all you need to do is you also have an activity that they need to draw. Or you will ask an activity where you ask your students, what is your talent? What are you good in in learning? Are you good in visual or are you good in audio, auditorial? So you ask your students to balance your teaching for them to be able to understand what you are trying to tell them or teach them. So that is expanded opportunity. Expand your teaching and expand their learning. That is all. So next we have D, the competency-based curriculum or the technical vocational education. So generally a self-paced model that falls under the umbrella of OB, of outcomes-based education, but with specific learning objectives often relating to workplace needs. So the competency-based framework of TESDA follow these certain steps. So, Philippine qualification frameworks, competence standard development, and competency-based curriculum development, and competency-based training. And we have the certification and equivalency. So, these are the competence-based framework of TESDA that the students or the people should follow the certain steps. So, next we have the Philippine qualification framework. So this is the qualification framework for TESDA or for people. So, level 1, grade 10 or NC1, level 2, grade 12 or NC2, level 3, NC3, and level 4, NC4, level 5, TESDA or TESDA diploma. You have now a TESDA diploma, and 6 is baccalaureate, and level 7 is post-baccalaureate, and level 8 is doctoral, doctoral. So, Philippine professional standards for teachers and the teacher educational development program. So this is for teacher to develop their knowledge and teaching skills. So the PPST is a set of standard which makes explicit what teachers should know, be able to do, and value to achieve competence, improve students' learning outcomes, and eventually quality education. So the PPST is a set of standards that will make the teacher will know and be able to what will they be able to do to their students, and value to achieve the competence of making the students have high performance and high activities. Curriculum quality audit. So CQA. So CQA is a form of curriculum mapping. It is distinctive in its purpose, process, and documentation. According to RF 2016, a curriculum quality audit is a best practice in curriculum development and implementation, which requires discipline-based standards to embody curricular program scopes and sequences. With this, the syllables, which is a document that clearly the elements of the curriculum must be mapped to the standards, and that would be the basis of the curriculum quality audit. So curriculum quality audit is a meticulous inventory process that has a design for both developments of new programs and redevelopment of existing program offerings. So, curriculum audits can be used for any number of purposes: alignment with accreditation standards, vertical alignment across grade levels, and coverage and alignment with testing and assessment, bill assessment. So, That is curriculum quality audit. Total quality management system in curriculum. So it is an art of organizing the whole to achieve excellence. It is the whole to achieve the excellence. People want to do their best. Excellence. So people want to do their best. So, and it is the management's job to provide environment through continuous improvement of the system. Is the assumption at which total quality management is based. So DepEd implements the educational reforms outlined under the basic education sector. So reform agenda which aims to systematically improve critical regulatory, institutional, structural, financial, cultural, physical, and informational conditions affecting basic education on the ground. The reforms, so this is a total management system. Total management. So total quality management means that the organization's culture is defined by and supports the constant attainment of customer satisfaction through an integrated system of tools, techniques, and training. So we have the first we have the strength school-based management. Second, we have the improved teaching effectiveness and teaching quality. So to improve the teacher's teaching quality. So third is enhanced quality through standards and assessment. So fourth is improve outcomes on early childhood education, alternative learning systems, and private sector participation. Fifth is institutional culture change in DepEd to better support this key reform trust. So this is shown in a continuous improvement process to help achieve the QRTS in certain schools. This is expected to promote a culture of excellence in service delivery at DepEd and ensure that schools are effective and efficient in performing their functions. So this helps teacher to improve their function or their way of teaching. So this can benefit the teacher and this can also benefit the students. Next, we have the research in education and curriculum reforms. So we are all familiar with research right now, right? We are familiar with research right now since we have a research subject right now. So we are conducting research right now. So what is research? What is the definition of research? So research is the pursuit of knowledge has always been defining feature of the human species. To acquire knowledge means employing any of the following: human experience, referring to authority, reasoning deductively, reasoning inductively, and applying the scientific process. So research is the systematic investigation into and study of materials and resources in order to establish facts and reach new conclusion. So research means you are going to research new topic. So you are going to study a topic that is still not been studied by the people. So that is research. You are going to study happening in life, or your way of schooling, your life, your part-time jobs. That is an example of research. So you are going to dig deeper in that. So you are going to dig deeper in that specific topic. So educational research. So educational research, it is the application of scientific methods and principle to identify and address problems or elucidate vague conceptions in the field of education. So as the process is logical and systematic, the information obtained from the educational research is deemed dependable and functional. So right now we have educational research. So for example, in our research right now, we are conducting research about a part-time job of the students while they are studying and also working at the same time. How they cope up with their how they cope up with their situation right now. How were they able to achieve how were they able to manage their time in doing their school activities and job at the same time. Characteristic of a good research. So a characteristic of a research should be objective. It should be objective. The entire exercise of educational research must be devoid of any biases for or against particular outcomes. So when you are doing a research, you should not be biased. You should not be biased in particular part. You should tell everything. You should be objective in your research. Next, we have the accurate. Accurate is only valid assumptions. So only a valid assumptions. You should be accurate in your research. And proper measurements. So research is really critical. You should have time. You should put time in doing a research, and you should be accurate and in your research. So proper measurements in your you should be accurate. Now we have feasible. Feasible is completing the task of research must be possible given the available resources and amount of time. So, for example, you are given enough time of research for 3 months. Since our research right now, we have enough time, 10 months, so we were able to really finish and gather data for our research. So, you should be feasible. You should be able to finish your research in exact time your instructor has given you. So next we have efficient. So you should be efficient in your research. The procedures and the decisions about the research process must be focused on the successful achievement of the goals for the research while maximizing the available resources. So efficient, when you are going to have a research, you should all maximize your resources around you. You should all use the materials that are in your resources. So, thank you, and that will be all. This is Eden Bimingo in BEd 3A.